Welcome to Acholi Pro Evo TV, and you're with me, Mark Brian. In this video, we're going to look at the Syrian law. As you already know, Ajok Vicky is under their custody, possibly, but also some sources report that she's already dead. Let's see the legality. Let's start with the law itself before we can relate it to Ajok's case. Under Syrian law, murder is treated as one of the most serious crimes and is mainly governed by the Syrian law. Here's how it works in simple terms. 1. Intentional murder or premeditated murder. If someone intentionally kills another person, especially with planning or premeditation, punishments can be death penalty or life imprisonment with hard labor. Premeditation or killing with cruelty makes the punishment harsher. 2. Murder with aggravating circumstances. The death penalty may apply if the murder was planned in advance, was committed during another serious crime like robbery, targeted a public official, was especially brutal. 3. Manslaughter, unintentional killing. If a person causes death without intent to kill, for example through negligence, punishment is usually temporary imprisonment. The sentence depends on the level of negligence. 4. Honor-related killings. Previously, Syrian law allowed lighter punishment for so-called honor crimes. However, legal reforms in recent years have reduced or removed those leniencies, meaning such killings are now treated more seriously under the law. 5. Self-defense. If the killing happened in legitimate self-defense, Syrian law may reduce the sentence or remove criminal liability if the force used was proportional and necessary. 6. Islamic law influence. Although Syria has a civil law system, elements of Islamic legal tradition can influence issues like compensation, blood money, stroke dia in certain contexts. Here is a clear explanation of how Syrian law applies to the case of Ajok Vicky, the Ugandan housemaid accused of killing her employer, Huda Shaarawi, based on the reported facts so far and general legal principles. The details below are grounded in the widely reported news about the case. What happened in the case? Vicky Ajok, a Ugandan woman working as a housemaid in Damascus, confessed to killing her employer, the 87-year-old Syrian actress Huda Shaarawi. Video shared by the Syrian Ministry of Justice show her reenacting the alleged attack with a blunt object that led to Shaarawi's death. Ajok claims she believed her employer had poisoned or mistreated her, including alleged non-payment of wages, denial of food, beatings, and other mistreatment, which she says triggered panic, confusion, and rage that led to the killing. How Syrian criminal law treats an accused person in a murder case. 1. Confession is strong evidence, but not enough by itself. In Syria, a signed confession by an accused person is typically treated as very strong evidence and can heavily influence the prosecution's case. However, Syrian courts still must consider the total evidence, forensic, medical witness statement before conviction. So a confession can lead to formal charges and trial, but doesn't automatically decide guilt without corroborating evidence. 2. Intentional killing, harsh penalties. Under Syrian law, if someone is found to have intentionally killed another person, especially without a legally valid justification, the crime is classified as murder, which carries severe penalties including life imprisonment or the death penalty. This applies particularly when the act is violent and deliberate. The authorities in this case are treating it within their criminal framework. 3. Self-defense and provocation. Syrian criminal law recognizes self-defense if a killing happened while someone was protecting themselves or another from imminent harm. But the defense must show that the threat was real and immediate, the force used was necessary and proportional. If proven, this can reduce or even eliminate criminal liability. So if Ajok can establish that she genuinely feared for her life because of abuse, that may be a relevant legal defense, but it must be proven in court. For mistreatment of domestic workers, allegations of unpaid wages, lack of food, confinement, or physical abuse are relevant civil, labor, or human rights issues and can factor into a defense argument. Example, provocation, psychological stress, duress. However, mistreatment alone does not legally justify killing under Syrian criminal law. It may be considered as mitigating factors at sentencing if guilt is proven. For example, proportional responses to serious abuse could reduce punishment in some legal systems, but killing is seldom seen as a lawful response unless immediate threat to life can be shown. 5. Language, fair trial, and legal representation. International due process standards require that accused persons understand the charges against them in a language they know. Confessions must be voluntary, not coerced. The accused must have access to legal counsel. Critics of the case have raised questions about whether Ajok fully understood her rights and whether the confession was made with proper support in her own language. These procedural issues are important in any fair trial. What this means for Ajok right now, she has been formally accused and her confession has been publicized by authorities. Syrian law treats murder as a capital or near capital offense if proven intentional. If she wants to avoid the heaviest penalties, her defense in court would likely focus on showing she acted in self-defense, she was under extreme duress, or that her state of mind was significantly impaired by fear and alleged abuse. Key legal takeaways. Unadmitted killing in Syria will result in a very serious criminal case. Confessions matter greatly, but courts still consider full evidence. Claims of abuse can be defense arguments, but are not automatic excuses for murder. Fair trial rights, language counsel are crucial and often highlighted by international observers. Two things are clear. There are rumors that Ajok is already beheaded. It's in news and actually major sources within Syria. And also another thing is clear. Syria is more influenced by Islamic law tradition, which could be very harsh and override the right legal processes that could help Ajok. For now, the only people who can push this matter to clarity is the government of Uganda. But one thing is clear, this is not an attack on the government, but one of the weakest points of the government is rescue. Rescue for clarity, rescue for life, and so on. Uganda is weak at rescue. I think Uganda needs to form a department of Red Cross or something and fund with full operation. So when it comes to one or two persons struggling, that appears like not a business of the government. Unfortunate. Thank you.